So one of the main motivation as a marketer, you always want to know not just what consumers buy, but also the primary motivation that drives their preferences. So this is the main idea about the paper that talks about identifying unmet demand. So what is unmet demand? So the way we characterize it is unmet demand basically results when consumers have certain preferences that are not being met by the product offerings in the marketplace. So unmet demand is basically it's basically two competing forces. The primary motivation that gets an individual to want a particular benefit, and the second force is basically the belief that the existing offerings do not satisfy their motivation. Okay, so this is one of the main things that we look at, and this is what got us thinking about unmet demand. And the way it is different from what is being currently done is most of the models look at unmet demand as stockouts or product unavailability, and they are looking at how do you switch or substitute to other products. In our case, we take more of a psychological thing as to what are these forces that drive you to want something, and how do you change these preferences. So that's what we look at. So the main areas of application, I would say from a managerial standpoint or business standpoint, would be new product development. So if a manager is interested in developing new products, then our formulation helps him decide on different pieces or the attributes that go into a product. It can be used in advertising and messaging. So how do you frame your advertising messages, find out more about what beliefs people have, what drives their preferences, and what is the primary motivation behind buying a certain product. So I would say the main areas are new product development and advertising and messaging. So for the data, we got this data from a national survey of toothpaste preferences. So we had more than 750 respondents filling out this survey, and it's done by a big market research firm. And the interesting thing is first coming up with the questionnaire. So it's a conjoint study, and we had to give like 30 different product attributes and benefits, like toothpaste prevent cavities, fight bad breath, and so on. So we had like 30 different product attributes and benefits, and the respondents also had to provide their agreement with some of like 6 belief statements. Like toothpaste are too strong tasting, they don't help with my dental problems, and so on. So you have to do all this, and then you realize that the questionnaire becomes really large. So you have to think about some way of coming up with an experimental design, and the way we do it is we use 10 sets of stimuli for each respondent, and within each stimuli you have 4 different product offerings. These are hypothetical product offerings which use 3 different attribute levels. So then people have to go through these scenarios and they rank order, saying, okay, I look at these 4 product offerings, which is my first choice to buy this toothpaste. What is the second? So they give a rank order of 4, and that's what in the analysis we use a exploding logit for the calculations. So the analytic techniques we used for this study, it is an extension of some of the random effects models that we use, but it's a new model of respondent heterogeneity. So we use 3 main pieces of different statistical methods. Bringing them together is not trivial. So the 3 pieces are, one is a normal mixture component, which accounts for the fact that there are heterogeneous consumer segments. There are different groups of consumers, and you need to capture that. So that is done using a normal mixture component. The second piece is where we account for the fact that the covariates relationship with the model parameters are segment specific. So what does that mean? It means that for different consumer segments, you can have different variables driving your preferences, and we capture that. And the third and the most important piece is what's called as heterogeneous variable selection. And heterogeneous variable selection, as the name suggests, basically is used to capture consumer sensitivities to certain product attributes. So the main idea being you might have certain product attributes that are not relevant or you are not sensitive towards. So when you include these product attributes in your analysis, it can distort the relationship. So different consumers can have different sensitivities to different product attributes. So you need to have this heterogeneous variable selection, which captures this aspect of the modeling. So we have these three different pieces, and we marry them together into a new model of respondent heterogeneity. So one of the big challenges when we put these things together is obviously there is no existing packages. So you have to write everything on your own. So the strategy that we used is we use hierarchical Bayesian techniques, and for estimation we use something called Markov chain Monte Carlo, MCMC techniques. And since I told you this, we had to write the code all by ourselves. So we write the code in R statistical software, which is an open source. But then if you think about the data and the different components that we have, it takes a long time to run these programs. So you need to make it faster. And the way we make it faster is we write some low-level program like C, and we create these dynamic link libraries that can be called from R. So the cool thing about R, it's an open source, so everybody has access to it, and it has a lot of flexibility. And it works well for us because it's a completely new model, so we had to write everything ground up.